Welcome to Infinite Intelligence. My name is Infinite, and today we're diving into part 3 of our claim denial series. We're diving into 10 advanced medical denials in real world scenarios. If part 1 and 2 were the warm up, this one's the masterclass. We're talking about high stakes denials that can make or break your revenue cycle. That's from authorization limits exceeded to DRG downgrades, timely appeal denials, or even global period violations that can slip right under your radar. This episode will open up your eyes to how small oversights can lead to big financial losses, and how a few smart strategies can turn your billing game from reactive to unstoppable. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your fellow biller and coder. Knowledge like this deserves to be circulated. And if you're serious about mastering denial prevention and appeal strategies, I've created an extensive, affordable PDF guide that goes even deeper into each one of these denials, complete with real world examples, scenarios, and step by step solutions. The link will be in the description below. Now, let's break down these advanced denials and make your workflow bulletproof. Let's get started.
Step into the world of infinite intelligence, where knowledge meets entertainment and brilliance. You'll find the answers to life's greatest questions. With every video we spark new obsessions. Infinite intelligence, we're here to elevate. Unlock your mind and let the wisdom resonate. We dive into the depths of the universe unknown. Infinite intelligence and knowledge is our own.
10 advanced medical denials and real world scenarios. Master the art of identifying, preventing, and resolving complex claim denials in today's healthcare revenue cycle. This comprehensive training will equip you with the practical strategies to tackle the most challenging denial scenarios facing billing and coding professionals. Okay? Why mastering denials matter. The financial impact. Healthcare organizations lose billions annually to preventable claim denials. The average denial cost is between $25 to $100 to rework, and not including the delay revenue or potential write-offs. For a mid-sized hospital processing approximately 50,000 claims monthly, even a 5% denial rate can result in millions in delayed and lost revenue. Beyond the immediate financial hit, denials strain your team's resources, divert attention from patient care, and can damage payer relationships. Understanding the root causes of advanced denial types is your first line of defense in protecting your organization's bottom line. Now, what you'll learn today. This presentation dives into 10 sophisticated denial scenarios that go beyond the basics. Okay, so we are going to explore authorization and compliance related denials, technical coding and billing format errors, documentation and timely challenges, along with DRG and reimbursement complications. Each section includes real world examples, actionable solutions, and reflection questions to reinforce your learning. By the end of this presentation, you'll have a toolkit of strategies to significantly reduce your denial rate and accelerate cash flow. All right. So first denial that we'll be getting to is authorization limits exceeded. Now, what causes this denial? This denial occurs when the number of visits, units, or services billed surpass what was pre-authorized by your insurance payer. Authorization limits are established to control cost and ensure medical necessity, and exceeding them even by 1 unit triggers an automatic denial. Okay, so that's also why we use tools like Craneware or other different softwares that will let you know what your limits are for the units or MUEs that we bill. Okay, so a real world example: a patient was approved for 10 physical therapy sessions following knee surgery. The therapist focused on patient progress and schedules and completes 12 sessions. When the claim is submitted, 11 and 12 are denied with reasons of authorization limits exceeded, resulting in a $600 in unbillable services. Okay? And a lot of times you cannot retroactively ask them to uh, update that off for what was not approved or pre-authorized. Okay, so sometimes they might have what's the word I'm looking for? Sometimes they might have an actual plan in place, so you can do that, but a lot of times you're not going to get paid for those services. Okay, so what is a prevention strategy for this scenario? You want to implement a robust tracking system that alerts providers and schedulers when approaching authorization limits. Before the final authorized visit, initiate the reauthorization process. Use your practice management system to flag accounts with active authorizations and set automated reminders at 80% utilization. Okay? Okay, day in a life scenario. Sarah, a scheduling coordinator at an outpatient therapy clinic, receives a call from a patient wanting to book their next appointment. She checks the authorization tracker and sees they've used 9 of 10 approved visits. Sarah schedules the 10th visit and immediately sends a revalidation request to the payer, preventing any service interruptions or billing issues. Okay, so Sarah is being proactive about what's going on in this situation, and that's what we want. We need proactiveness. Okay, all right. Here's a reflection question: what systems does your organization have in place to track authorization limits in real time? How could you improve communication between clinical and billing staff on this issue? All right. Now, denial number 2: invalid or missing value/condition codes. All right, understanding the denial. Value codes and condition codes are critical data elements on institutional claims such as UB04s that provide context about coverage, liability, and special circumstances. Value codes represent specific dollar amounts or units, such as covered days or non covered days, while condition codes indicate special conditions affecting the claim, like employment related injuries or ESRD patients. When these codes are omitted entirely or entered incorrectly, payers cannot properly adjudicate the claim. This is especially common with Medicare claims, where value code 80, which is the covered days, is frequently required for inpatient stays, but often overlooked by billers unfamiliar with specific payer requirements. All right. And I recently, I've said in several videos in the past that my position is a validation specialist, and I recently started billing. So I'm definitely looking at the claims even more so. I was already looking at the claims, but even more so from a biller perspective. but also having that all around revenue cycle perspective from being a collector to being a validator to being a biller, it gives you more insight of how you can build a claim clean the first time. Okay. Now, the hospital billing scenario. Marcus, a hospital biller, submits an inpatient claim for a Medicare beneficiary 5-day stay. The claim processes through the clearinghouse without errors, but 2 weeks later it's rejected by Medicare with a cryptic message advising missing required value code. After research, Marcus discovers that the value code 80, indicating the number of covered inpatient days, was required but not included on the original claim. He corrects the claim by adding the value code 80 with a value of 5, resubmitting the claim processes successfully. However, this oversight delayed payment by nearly 3 weeks and required additional staff time to research and correct and resubmit. A costly mistake for what should have been routine data entry. Okay, so something that could have been paid in 2 weeks' time took 3 weeks to pay. All right. So, bulletproof solution. Create payer-specific billing checklists that outline required value and condition codes for each insurance type. Many billing systems can be configured with edit rules to flag missing codes before claim submissions. Schedule quarterly reviews of payer billing manuals to stay up to date with required changes. Train your billing team to use crosswalks between between service types and required codes. For instance, inpatient stay almost always require a value code 80 for Medicare, while condition code 07 indicates treatment for an unrelated condition. Implement a peer review process where complex claims are audited by a second biller before submission to catch these technical oversights. And in this, what I just said is a perfect solution for this issue. However, sometimes it depends on what's going on. Like, for instance, once again, I work at a hospital. So we have several teams. So we have a Medicare team, we have a Medicaid team, we have two commercial teams, and we have an HMO team. So inside that, so from my perspective, who has the easiest job when it comes to billing? Medicare, because Medicare is only billing Medicare. But Medicaid, we might have less, and this is a rough over, something off the top of my head. We might have 10 payers, where commercial might have 20 to 35 payers per each team, and then HMO might have 15 to 20 payers. So when those claims are being billed in the queue they were billing them out of, they're not in order. I'm not, 1 minute I could be billing Blue Care, the next minute I could be billing WellPoint, the next minute I could be billing Medicaid Mississippi. So because it's structured like that, it's better for you to have some type of well, I know for me, it's better for me to have some type of, I have all my notes together per payer that I've created myself, so I can stay on track with who I'm billing, what I'm billing, and what are the circumstances to how I'm billing it. And that helps me out a lot. Now, would it be easier if the system was set up so I could just bill Blue Care first, and then Medicaid Arkansas second, Medicaid Mississippi third, and WellPoint fourth, and UAC Community fifth? Yeah, in a perfect world, if it was like that, it probably would be better. But since it's not like that, I have to make sure my notes are accommodating to the situation. Okay? That's a little tidbit of what I have to go through as a biller, real life, real world. Okay? Denial 3, invalid bill type. the 3-digit code that changes everything. The bill type, also called type of bill or TOB, is a 3-digit code on the UB04 claims, which are hospital claim forms that tell the payer critical information. All right. So the first digit is the type of facility. So you have one, two, well, excuse me, one is hospital, two is skilled nursing, and three is home health. The second digit is the care, which is one inpatient, one is inpatient, three is outpatient, and four is other. And the third digit is claim frequency. So no, number one is admission through discharge, two is interim claims, seven is replacement claims, and eight is avoided claim. All right. Using the wrong bill type is like addressing a package incorrectly. It will not reach its destination. So, what does that mean? That means, um, for me, I bill at the hospital. If I'm demanding a claim and it's the first time going out, it would not be a 117. It will be a 111. Hospital, inpatient, admission through discharge. Okay? Now, after I submit that claim and I need to submit a corrected claim, if there's any corrections that need to be made, it'll be a 117. Hospital, inpatient, and it will be a replacement claim. Okay? All right. So when good claims go wrong, Jennifer works in hospital billing and submits a claim for a patient's long inpatient stay that's still ongoing. She's submitting an interim claim to receive partial payment before discharge, but accidentally uses the bill type 111 instead of 112. Okay? The payer immediately rejects the claim because the dates of service indicate the patient is still admitted, creating a mismatch with final bill type. Jennifer must avoid the incorrect claim, resubmit the bill type as a 112, and wait for the reprocessing, delaying payment by weeks on a high dollar claim. All right. So, what is a prevention strategy? Develop a quick reference guide showing common bill type scenarios. Build smart edits into your billing system that cross check billing types against discharge status and dates of service. For example, if the discharge date equals admission date, the system should flag if bill type isn't appropriate for the same date of service, like a 131 for outpatient. Train staff on specific situations requiring less common bill types, such as late charges, bill type 117, replacement claims for prior claims 127, or void on 138. Many denials happen simply because biller defaults to 111 without considering whether it's truly the final claim. All right, and that's why it's so important. All right, reflection question: How often does your facility submit interim claims for long days of service? Does your biller understand when to use each frequency digit, 1 through 9, and the bill type? So that is when, because this I'm actually going through this at work. We have somebody that's new and they only know a billing perspective. And I wasn't the one that trained them, but the person that trained them only showed them a billing perspective. Or they're just not in the groove of checking other aspects of the system to make sure that 111 needs to go out and not a 117. Okay? So, for instance, if you have a claim that rejected for whatever reason, let's say it was a coded reason, the reason why the claim rejected. So, when the code gets updated, even though let's say you originally built out a 111, which is the process. You build out a 111, it gets rejected. It has to be forwarded to HIM to update the code. They update the code, so when you go back to redemand that claim, what are you going to build again? You're going to build a 111. You're not going to build a 117 because it never went out. It just got rejected. So once the claim is accepted and processing, if something goes wrong with it, let's say for another coding issue or whatever issue it has, at that point you can make it a 117. But if you build it and it never went anywhere and it had to be updated, you're still going to demand a 111. Okay, so sometimes people aren't fully aware of the steps in the process. They just used to demanding another claim, and it's a second claim, and that means it needs to be corrected. No, you need to pay attention to what has happened with that claim, so you know what you're billing and how it needs to be billed. Okay. So let's explore the next denial. We've covered authorization limits, missing code, or bill type errors. All technical denials that can be prevented with better systems and training. Now we're moving into clinical documentation and patient status issues, where the intersection of medical decision making and billing compliance becomes critical. Okay, excuse me, denial 4, invalid discharge status code. Define the problem. All right, the discharge status code, also called patient status code, on the UBO4 claims indicate where the patient went after leaving the facility. This single two-digit code, which is either it goes from 1 to 99, has enormous implications for payment because it affects DRG reimbursement, readmission tracking, and coordination with post-acute care providers. Okay? So number 2, identifying the mismatch. When the discharge code doesn't align with the actual continuation of care, it triggers denials or payment reductions. For example, coding a patient at discharged at home, which would be a 01, when medical records clearly show the patient was transferred to a skilled nursing facility, which is a 03, creates a documentation mismatch that payers will catch during audits. All right? Or if the patient left AMA against medical advice, that's another reason why the payment might not get paid for the full stay. But we'll get into that. Understanding financial impact. Some discharge status affects payments differently. A transfer to another acute hospital, which is the O2, may result in a per diem payment instead of a full DRG. While discharge to home health, which is the O6, triggering specific quality reporting requirements. Getting this code wrong doesn't just cause denial. It can result in a significant overpayment or underpayment. Okay? So implement the solution. Verify discharge dispositions on every inpatient stay before finalizing the bill. Create a workflow where case management documents the discharge plan and the medical records, and the billing staff confirms this information before coding. Use discharge status crosswalks to ensure consistency between clinical documentation and billing codes. All right. So, day in the life scenario. Linda, a medical biller, is working through discharge accounts. She sees a patient marked as discharged home, but notice extensive case management notes about arranging skilled nurse placement. She contacts the case manager, who confirms the patient was indeed transferred. Denial number 5. Medical records not received by deadline when documentation arrives too late. Payers' strict establish strict timeframes for medical record submission following audit requests. Missing these deadlines, even by one day, result in automatic denial and forfeiture of payment, regardless of the claim's validity. This denial is particularly frustrating because the clinical documentation supports the services. The only failure is administrative timing. All right, so we have day 1, audit request received by mail. Day 5, request logged and assigned to HIM. Day 30, medical records are compiled and reviewed. Day 48, medical records were mailed but received 2 days late. And on day 60, the denial is issued with a CO 252. All right, so what is a real world example? Blue Care, Tennessee requests medical records for a cardiac catheterization claim within 45 days. Clearwater Regional HIM Department received the request but only prioritizes surgical cases. Records were compiled on day 47 and denied, resulting in a loss of revenue equaling $8,400. Now, what is a prevention strategy to not lose that much in revenue? We should be implementing a centralized tracking system for all audit requests with an automated escalation at 50% of deadline. You should be submitting medical records electronically with delivery confirmations. Assign dedicated staff to monitor and prioritize payer audit. Consider same day or next day response protocols for high volume claims. All right. And those medical record requests result in our next denial, which is a DRG downgrade. All right. So this is defined after post payment review. The payer determines the clinical documentation does not support the higher weight DRG that was billed. They reassign the claim to a lower paying DRG and recoup the difference. All right. So what is a real world example of a DRG downgrade? So Summit Healthcare billed a DRG 921 for a patient with acute systolic heart failure and documented diabetes complications. The payer's clinical reviewer downgraded to a DRG 292, citing insufficient documentation to major complications, resulting in a reduction of $2,100. Now, what is the solution to this problem? You should be reviewing the clinical documentation for improvement query processes. Ensuring physicians are documenting severity, complications, and clinical indicators that support MCC and /CC assignment. Appeal with complete physician notes, diagnostic reports, and treatment records demonstrating the complexity of care. All right. DRG downgrades often result from documentation gaps and not coding errors. Your appeal should focus on clinical evidence of severity and complexity that was present but inadequately captured in the initial records. All right. All right. Denial number 7, timely appeal denial when time runs out on your rights. Okay, every payer established specific time frames for timely appeals, typically ranging from 60 to 180 days from the initial denial. Filing even late by one day can result in an automatic dismissal. The payer won't review the clinical merit of your case. These are hard deadlines with no exception. Okay? So, North Point Medical Group received a denial for a complex surgical procedure on March 15th. The denial was placed in the general billing inbox and not triaged to the appeals coordinator until May 20th. By the time the appeal was prepared and submitted, which was May 25th, which was 71 days later, the 60-day window had closed, and Anthem rejected the appeal with a CO-29 stating time limit for filing has expired. This resulted in a $15,000 loss on that claim. All right. So, like I said, you have 60 to 90 days, typical window, but the window for each payer may vary. And this is an average loss of $47,000 annually, okay, per facility missed deadline. All right, so how can we prevent this? We should be entering denials into a tracking system same day with with deadline calculated. We need to set alerts, configure notifications at 50, 75, and 90% of that deadline. We should be submitting electronically using payer portals for instant confirmation and date stamping. And lastly, we need to confirm the receipt of the medical records by verify appeal was received before deadline passes. Okay, so I meant to say appeals, but the same thing we did with the medical records is the same thing we're doing with the appeals. Okay, which is making sure that we get this information out as soon as possible, because these deadlines come fast and they come quick. Okay, sometimes it's hard to keep track of all this stuff because you might be dealing with hundreds of claims on a daily basis. I deal with hundreds of claims on a daily basis. But you have to make sure you have the right software and everything in place, so all these things are you're ahead of the game with everything you have going on. Okay. All right. So what is the best practice checkpoint? And like I just said, staying ahead of complex denials. All right. So you want to create a discharge reconciliation checklist that requires billing staff to verify actual patient disposition against coded discharge status before claim submissions. You want for treat audits requests as urgent. Medical record requests should receive priority handling. Consider them as time sensitive as claim submission deadlines. Time sensitive as the claim submission deadlines, because they are. All right. So just like your claims are time sensitive, this information that they're requesting with these medical records are sensitive too. So everything is timely in healthcare. Everything is timely. You got to get it off in a timely manner. You don't have time to get one a lot of time to get one after the fact, if there is an after effect. So everything is like that. Okay. Build bulletproof appeals. Don't just dispute. Provide compelling clinical evidence. DRG appeal success when demonstrating severity through comprehensive documentation, not just assertion. And never miss a deadline. Invest in denial management software with automated deadline tracking. This cost of the software is recovered by preventing just one missed appeal per year. All right. All right. Next, we have denial number 8, duplicate line item. This denial occurs when identical service line appear on the same claim without proper justification or modifiers. Payer views this as potential duplicate billing or unbundling, even when the services were legitimately provided separately. Failing to amend appropriate modifiers signal an error to the payer's automated system. Okay, so what's a real world example of this? Dr. Chen saw Michael Torres for 2 distinct issues in one day. A follow-up for his diabetes management, which was he used the clinic code of 99213 in the morning, and an acute evaluation of his sprained ankle, which was also another 99213 in the afternoon. The billing specialist submitted these codes without the modifier 25 on the second visit. The payer denied the second charge as duplicate, assuming it was a clinical error. Okay? So, what should we do? We must run pre-submission reports flagging identical codes on the same date. We need to verify confirmed services were distinct and separately identifiable. We need to modify by using the appropriate modifiers. And we need to document, ensuring medical documentation clearly shows separate encounters. Okay? And to me, that's one of the easiest denials you can handle, which is making sure you have the correct codes when you have two clinic charge same days of service, along with your condition codes to reflect what's going on with your other codes. Okay. Denial number 9, which is invalid revenue codes. Revenue codes should align logically with the procedure codes billed. Using revenue code 360, for example, but have a laboratory test, or using revenue code 450, which signals an emergency room for a scheduled outpatient procedure, creates incompatibility that triggers automated denials. These mismatch suggestions are a fundamental billing error. Okay, you cannot have revenue 360 means that the patient had some kind of surgery. You will not have a lab code on that revenue line. Okay, if the patient, like this example, if the patient was seen in an emergency room, which a revenue code 450 represents an emergency room, they are not going to have an outpatient procedure on that revenue line. It's not going to, it shouldn't be there. Okay. So you got to make sure everything lines up with the story. These claims tell a story. So you got to make sure the story is in order, and the process, all the things are in play that tells the story. Okay. And these codes tell a story. Okay, you want to help with this, you want to create reference table mapping for the CPT codes to valid revenue codes for facility types. You want to configure billing systems to reject incompatible CPT and revenue code combinations. And you want to also train your staff to ensure the understanding of the revenue code logic and facility specific requirements. All right. So outside of being educated on revenue codes and CPT codes and what goes with what, you want to also have, once again, your system in place to help signify these things. Okay. So our last denial and our final denial that we will be going over is denial number 10, which is a global period violation. All right. Now, what is that? It is for example, a surgical procedure included in a global period, which is typically 10 or 90 days, during which a follow-up care is bundled into the original procedure payment. Billing post-operative visits without the proper modifier during this period result in a denial. The payer assumes that the visit is included in the global package. All right, so let's break that down. Dr. Martinez performs a total knee replacement, a 27447, with a 90-day global period. Okay, on a post-op day, which is a day 30. The patient develops cellulitis, which is unrelated to the surgery, requiring an E&M visit. Okay, he went to the clinic to see about this cellulitis. The billing department submitted 99213 without the modifier 24, which signifies unrelated E&M during a global period. So, of course, UAC, United Healthcare, denied the visit as a result in the surgical global package, despite it being a completely different condition. Okay? So that goes back to the story that we're telling. If we did not add that modifier on there, they're going to assume that it was included in the package. Okay? So, know your global periods. This is how we can prevent this. Reference CMS global surgically list and use billing software with built-in global period alerts. You want to apply the correct modifier. Modifier 24 is unrelated E&M. Modifier 78 is for related return to related return, while 79 is unrelated procedures during global period. Okay? So, and you want to document carefully. Medical records must clearly show services was outside the global period scope. All right. So, lastly, what are our takeaways? Mastering advanced denials. Prevention beats resolution. Every denial type covered today is preventable through proper training, system validation, and workflow design. Invest in prevention infrastructure. Documentation is your defense. Whether appealing DRG, downgrades, or global period violation, comprehensive clinical documentation is your strongest evidence. And deadlines are non-negotiable. From authorization limits to appeal windows to medical record requests, calendar management is a core revenue cycle competency. Okay? So you want to make sure you understand all these elements in scenarios and situations to prevent these denials. All right?